Okay, everyone. How is everyone doing today? Okay, that's the hip hop gamer in the house, Hot 97. So we're going to take our seats. And because this is a community collaborative session, we want to make sure that community is engaged throughout this process. We cannot talk about something that we don't implement. And so implementation of community interaction and engagement is imperative. So keep that in mind. If you have a burning question, if you have something that you want to ask, raise your hand. We're okay with that in the midst of us having this conversation. I am Ebony Young, Queens Deputy Borough President. Very happy to be here. I'm very happy to have the panelists that we have. This incredible conversation really sits at the intersection of government, private sector, public sector, community knowledge, community growth. And those things cannot be done without people talking. So that means that we have a responsibility in the government sector, in the public sector, in the private sector to open our mouths, to convene people around something that's important, and to ask the right questions. We have to do that. It is up to us. Who knows what the dollar amount number is that is expected for contribution to the global economy under smart cities? Does anybody have any clue of what the dollar amount is of support to that? Anybody want to guess? Okay, who said 20 trillion? Wow, okay. Anyone else? 1.7. One more person. It's 1.2 trillion, so Shantonio, you're right on it. That is a lot of money, and I think it's something that we need to consider when it comes to technologies like IoT, data analytics, and AI being a part of that. And if you're in some way in tuned or in touch with that, it's really important. But having the technology is not enough. It is about, as I mentioned earlier, the how we collaborate and what drives our impact. A lot of times, before the age of technology, we would be so insular in our thinking around, what is it that we can do to make this city better? That day is no longer. If we are going to grow a city, if we're going to think about technology driving a city, it needs to be about our impact. So I need everyone to keep that in mind as we go forward. And so really quickly, I want to give some examples here. So take Barcelona, right, as an example. Smart lighting reduced energy costs by 30%, and the result of it set in government, private companies, and engaged citizens doing that work together. Similarly, Seoul's smart pedestrian streets, shaped by community input, improving safety and affordability, played a huge role in convening what is now under technology and operating and functioning at very high levels. And also Singapore's Smart Nations initiative, improving traffic management with public safety through public-private partnerships that have turned the city completely around. And lastly, Queens is actually partnering on a New York City Global Tech and Innovation Center that really hyper-focuses on seed, yes, and Series A global entrepreneurs looking at the intersection of solving for city problems with private, public sector, community folks all engaged around that conversation. It is being built out right now and will be the first of its kind in New York City, positioned in Long Island City, Queens, right at the East River. Come check us out really soon. Another part of a collaboration is looking at how we gamify cities. We have the hip-hop gamer here. Raise your hand. Stand up, hip-hop gamer. And really looking at collaborations. We were just speaking about the 16 to 22-year-old who is always the target of bad news when it comes to their driving. Insurance goes up, there's a hike in all of these things. But as we were talking, the gamer and I, it was, hey, what if we gamified getting your license, and there were positive reactions to 16 to 22-year-olds driving in the city in a different way? Could insurance hike down? Could there be a different way of us looking at it? So we're going to explore those things today as we talk to our panel here and get some great insight and news from moving forward. So I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves. via our questioning pieces. So the first question here for our panelists, and this is a generalized question, each of you plays a crucial role in advancing smart city initiatives. Can you share one key project that you're currently working on that exemplifies the community collaborations in your particular area? So you'll introduce yourself, say who you are, and then go into answering the question. Thanks so much. Jason.
Good morning, everyone. I am Jason Sankey, the Chief Information Officer for the great city of Atlanta. I'll take 10% of that 1.2 trillion.
Okay.
So just get it to the city of Atlanta. So that's a great question, and community is really a city. So when you think about how do we deliver services, it's based on the experience of the community. So one project that I'm proud of, we recently introduced a new customer relationship management system, or CRM, and we took a different approach. In the past, we typically will introduce technology based on what we think people need. But we introduced a mobile innovation lab. So what we did was we went out to the communities, we went out to our community centers, and we invited the community businesses in and talked to them about how are we delivering services? What can we do differently in order to make your experience better? Because it is my view that when we look at how we're delivering services, especially from a city perspective, it's based on technology. How many times have we touched technology today? And I will say that technology is probably the only industry that touches everyone so much throughout the day. How many times are you going to touch your phone? How many times are you going to touch another device? How many times are you going to get on a laptop? It's all day. So technology is that center. So we went out to community, we built the system based on feedback, and then we returned to the community. We said, this is what we built, and we got an earful. Some areas we didn't get right, some we did, but we're using that feedback mechanism, and as we increase different types of versions, we will introduce what we've heard from the communities.
Feedback, the key. Take that with you. Yes.
All right, good morning. I'm Leah Eriksen. I'm the Director of Technology and Innovation and CIO for the City of Long Beach, California. Have to clarify that. Yeah, Long Beach, California, LBC. So I've been with the city about 11 years, and I've been in my current role about 7 years. And one of the things I'm really proud of is when I took the role, I wanted to make sure we transitioned from being seen, my department, as an internal service provider to a convener and a collaborator, that's more community focused, and making sure that we're actually building technology solutions that actually work for our residents and solve real civic challenges. And so in 2021, our city council approved our Smart City initiative, and two of the guiding principles that related to that Smart City initiative included earning public trust, as well as cultivating local expertise. And to do that, we really needed to have meaningful community engagement involved in our technology solutions, and then go beyond just, asking them what they think about the technology, but actually having them be involved in the co-design of some of our technology solutions. So one of our programs that I'm really proud of is called the Long Beach Co-Laboratory, or LB Co-Lab. And in the first version of that, what we did was we picked 4 neighborhoods in the city that were we picked based on data. These were neighborhoods that were most impacted by COVID. They had lower graduation rates. They had the higher economic uncertainty. And those neighborhoods, we solicited and recruited residents to come be part of the LB CoLab. And we had 27 that participated in the program. And what they literally did was they helped identify challenges in their neighborhoods. Then they helped identify potential challenge statements that can be used for to solicit and recruit technology vendors to develop pilots in their neighborhoods that solve those civic challenges. They were even involved in the procurement part of the technology challenges, solution development. And then now we're in the implementation phase of actual pilots in those 4 neighborhoods. And along the way, those community residents were also receiving professional development workshops, as well as the opportunity to participate in a technology certificate program so that they can also build their skills. And so I feel like that was like a win-win-win related to earning public trust, and also having them being meaningfully engaged in using bringing smart city technology to solve real challenges in their neighborhoods. And one cool other story about that, one of the participants in the CoLab applied for a city position, and he got it, and he is now running the next version of the LV Collab, for our city. So that's pretty cool.
Trust, expertise, engagement. All that said at the intersection. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm George Nuñez, founder and CEO of Bronx Tech Hub. We're building a tech ecosystem in the Bronx focused on workforce development, education, entrepreneurial access. One key project that we are working on, and want to thank God and also say we're excited to launch this. We're actually launching a climate tech clean energy fellowship. Shout out to Phil and Strawbridge. They both work at New York Power Authority, who had granted us the seed funding to launch this fellowship, and it's through the BXCDC, where Strawbridge works. And I think the biggest thing why this is imperative is because we talk about bringing economic opportunities to our local economies, to our local communities and boroughs, and this is a prime example of that. It's going to be a pilot program for Bronx CUNY students. So we will train them for the next 10 months, starting in the fall semester, on different aspects of clean energy, climate tech, specifically in e-mobility. And then after that, we'll place them at climate tech startups and climate tech companies. So we're super excited to launch this program, secure the seed funding, and also provide that economic opportunity to the Bronx CUNY students, especially when there's a rise in climate tech, AI, blockchain, and none of these opportunities per se trickle down to these communities. So it's like, all right, if they're not coming down, if people like myself have to run out and chase those opportunities, why don't we be the difference, create the solution, and bring it to our own communities?
Excellent. Training and education, feedback, sitting at the intersection of expertise and engagement, taking all of that with you can change a city. Jason, if you could talk a little bit about leveraging partnerships, specifically around smart city advancements and how all communities benefit from that, including those that are underserved or are most marginalized.
Sure, that's a great question. So we understand as a city, we can't do it alone because when you think of funding streams, we have limited funding resources, limited funding budgets for technology, but we can leverage the partnerships that we have locally because if the city of Atlanta wins, the local businesses win, and they understand that. We had a cyber attack back in 2018, March of 2018, and it literally stopped the city. And when you think about that, you don't really understand it until you live it. I wasn't there at the time. I did a lot of research on it, and it shut down the way businesses operated. It shut down the way the city operated. So we realized that in order to be successful as a community, the city of Atlanta has to be successful. So at that time, we started developing these partners in the cyberspace. Now we're reaching out to the local businesses that have resources right here within the city of Atlanta, and we talk through with the Microsofts of the world, how do we ensure that we're advancing the community? Because you have residents here, and they've been great partners. They look at how do we push things forward. And I've been with the city of Atlanta now for 4 years, and this is the first time that I've had a boss that understands technology. So our mayor went to Georgia Tech. He's engineer by trade, understands technology, so he understands the investment that we need to make. And we have 4 pillars for the city of Atlanta. We want one safe city, a city of opportunity for all, a city built for the future, and an effective and ethical government. And when I say city of opportunity for all, this comes to how we're looking to make sure that the underserved are actually served. It's truly a city of opportunity for all. So I'll give 2 examples. We recently introduced these Ike Smart kiosks throughout the city. We have about 100 now. And in the contract, we said we wanted at least 25% in traditionally underserved communities so they can have access to Wi-Fi, so they can have access to these public tools that we have on the machines and the devices. And right now, we're at 32% in underserved communities. In the news right now, the second example, we have the Atlanta Beltline. It's a beltline that goes, it's a circle, 22 miles. We have about 3 miles left to build around the city of Atlanta. And typically, historically, I should say, the investments go where the money is. So anyone heard of Buckhead and the east side, that's where the money is. Well, our mayor said, we're starting with the southeast side because the southeast side doesn't have access to transit. So we're gonna build this transit investment starting with the southeast side, and he's getting a lot of flack. It's been on the news, probably made some national news, but that's where the need is. You can't get to, these are two facts that we're not proud of the city of Atlanta. When you go south of the city, south of Route 20, you can't get fresh produce. There aren't grocery stores. So we're actually looking at partnering with a company to create a grocery store. There's also no trauma hospitals south of 20. So when you think about the investment in building that rail on the south side, it is because we're looking at how do we ensure equity across all of Atlanta. And all of that we're doing is all built around our partnerships. We couldn't do it in a vacuum because they're bringing in the resources, they're bringing in financial assistance, and they're also bringing in the latest and greatest technologies.
That's amazing, and it doesn't hurt that you have the expertise at the top. When you have a mayor that has a background in technology and understands it, it's a lot easier to have those discussions. Leah, Long Beach is recognized as one of the top digital cities, and I didn't know that before I spoke with you. So talk to me a little bit about the strategies that are most effective in engaging residents and vendor communities, specifically, and CBOs too, in the smart city initiatives, and what lessons can others take away from your experiences?
Certainly, and one of the things I'm really proud of is we have that top digital city recognition in our population category, the top city, 4 years in a row, which is unheard of.
Pretty amazing.
It's unprecedented, yeah. You were just talking about equity. Well, I think you used a different term, but making sure everything is inclusive for everyone. And so design for equity is also one of our core principles for our Smart City Initiative, as well as build civic resilience. And I already mentioned the LB Collaboratory as that community-led challenges and ways for the community to get involved in identifying challenges that technology can solve. In addition to that, there's a staff-driven challenge area, and that's called the Smart City Challenge, where city employees at all different levels can get involved in identifying challenges and then bringing technology in to help solve those. And then the third area, the third program is called the Pitch Long Beach, and that's where our vendor community can come in, because we recognize great city ideas can come from everywhere. We don't know what we don't know. So we see the city as like a test bed for these smart, innovative technologies, and the Pitch Long Beach program allows the vendor community to come in and say, here's our pitch, this is how it aligns with your guiding principles and your Smart City Initiative and how it solves real civic challenges. And how we make sure that our community, though, is involved, and regardless of which way these pilots come in, we make sure that our community is involved at the appropriate times through programs like our civic user research program, where we recruit residents to be involved in testing the technology at certain points in the design and implementation of those pilots or projects, so we can make sure we get it right. You had mentioned a CRM project. I'm chagrined to say that our CRM project, which, by the way, to be fair, was launched in 2020, terrible time to be doing community engagement in 2020. We learned some painful lessons from how not to do community engagement, which was we didn't really do it. At the very tail end of the project, we kind of went out and said, hey, what do you think? And they were like, So we're like, okay, we're going to market this as a soft launch of we're going to iterate and make this better, but that was a painful lesson. So with our new civic user research practice, what that does is we recruit residents, as I mentioned, and we make sure that we give them stipends. So $25 gift cards, for their time. And when we have community meetings, we make sure that we're reducing the barriers to participation. So we make sure that there's food, that there is child watch. If needed, there's language access, that we're actually out and about in the communities, instead of saying, come on down to City Hall. That program I mentioned, the LB Collab, the people who were involved in that actually got a $1,000 stipend after the completion of that program. Yeah, but by the way, that was not the motivating factor. We found that actually the ability to contribute to their neighborhoods was a bigger driver for their participation in the program. And so, having the residents be engaged in all these different technology projects is what I think makes arts technology smarter and more responsive and accessible to our community. And we are also concerned about the digital divide, so I haven't even mentioned digital inclusion, but that's why it's so important when we're soliciting and recruiting residents, not to just put it out on social media or the city council's newsletters, but to actually go into those spaces and recruit residents like at community centers or libraries, which we do. And then of course we have a whole digital inclusion initiative where we're also making sure that technology literacy and devices and internet connectivity are part of the solution as well. So for anyone who participated in LB Collab who needed those, we partnered with their digital inclusion initiative to make sure that they had that technology to participate. And one other thing is on the vendor community, one other tip that we have is marketplace.city is one of the platforms we use to market our pitches, not our pitches, but our challenge statements, because we have our Planet Bids type solution called Long Beach Buys. That's our homegrown system, but not everyone signed up to be a vendor with the city. So we use marketplace.city to reach a broader market community. And then one last example of kind of involving community in our Smart City initiative, we have one of our local companies is Mercedes-Benz, and they had a partnership with Xtelligent to do intelligent traffic signal testing with our autonomous vehicles. And we wanted to make sure that how can we get community involved in this? And so what I was really proud of is we wrote into the agreement of them using our city streets for a test bed that they would hold a community workshop with high school students, introducing them to the technology and tech careers and other things like that. And that was really well regarded. So even just little things like, in that just little reaches like having a community workshop to the actual $1,000 stipends to a $25 gift certificate. There's different ways you can get really community meaningfully involved in making sure your smart city technology is truly smart.
And Leah, I think what was really good to hear was that, the motivation was not necessarily the stipend, because when you engage appropriately, there's an internal motivation that's beyond the $1,000. Actually, the $1,000 is great, though. I think that's a great incentive. George, let's talk a little bit about workforce development and education and what role it plays in really shaping smart cities and looking at how public-private collaborations, it enhances what you do and your impact and the people that you work with.
Yeah, great question, Deputy Borough President. One thing that I've realized was, before I even started Bronx Tech Hub, as I mentioned before, went to, originally from the South Bronx, went to Binghamton University, majored in finance, worked on Wall Street, did investment banking. After that, I consulted a couple of startups, anywhere from pre-seed to Series A. And at that point, I wanted to get into product management. So I took a boot camp, and then after that, I was a product manager for a early stage startup where we built a SaaS platform for food truck businesses. And then after that, I was a product manager for an ed tech company where we built mobile app games focused on STEM and esports. And I ended up moving to DC. While I was in DC, I had that epiphany where I was like, hey, I want to do something for my community, and I also want to do something specifically in tech. And so as a product manager, you have to do things through trial and error. So we launched Bronx Tech Week. That was a success, and then we formalized Bronx Tech Hub. I'll say all that to say, throughout my journey, I had to go chase opportunities. So opportunities didn't come to me. And I thought to myself, if I'm going through this, there's so many other people in my community where I'm from that are going through the same issues, and even other boroughs as well. So how do I create that opportunity for others so that they can grow and scale? The other thing, I just want to point out a couple of quick statistics as well. There are roughly 40% of Bronx residents that don't have access to Wi-Fi. The second statistic is out of all of the New York City tech jobs, there's only roughly 1% of those tech jobs based in the Bronx. And the last statistic I'll leave you all with is out of all of the venture capital funding in New York City, only 0.02% goes to Bronx-based startups. And so clearly through those statistics, there's a tech desert or a tech need in the Bronx. And that's what I'm looking to change, but I can't change it alone and by myself, which is why the public-private partnerships between the city agencies, the tech companies, and the people already doing the work, that could help trickle down to the opportunities where we're looking to create fellowships or opportunities in AI or climate tech, or being able to help people incubate their businesses so that they could hire the local tech talent that are either unemployed or still looking for work but have the skill, and they just need an opportunity because they're constantly getting overlooked. So that's my point on that.
I think you're right on it, and which was one reason why we jumped into the Global Tech and Innovation Center like we did. And there's this whole spectrum of, you know, entry level, mid, upper, and when you talk about like seed, Series A, Series B folks that are getting into the technology era, a lot of times when you think about globalizing leaders or globalized entrepreneurs in tech, we go straight to the front part of that chain, which is, oh, they must need internet access. Or yes, there are people that do, right? You talked about this. There are people that do in Queens as well. But there are also people that are out there that are global entrepreneurs that are very high levels of functionality and operations. Shantonio, stand up. Shantonio has a business with Thermoverse that basically artificial intelligence regulates in buildings. You don't have to ever touch a thermostat again. But we've missed the boat when it comes to investing, putting funds into, partnering with, looking at public-private partnerships with businesses like Shantonio's, who are above the pre-seed thought level, needing internet access. This guy has partnerships with the Department of Energy, doing amazing work, works with tons of architects across the country, and NASA's looking at him right now. So we've got to, like you said, you got to run and go get it. We've got to figure out how we leverage those partnerships in ways that we tell a sophisticated story, where people understand that that spectrum sits from the very entry level all the way up to Series A and Series B. Don't forget those folks. Thank you, Shantonio. Let's give Shantonio a hand. We're going to end, and then we're going to get to some questions. One piece of advice. What is that one piece of advice that you have for this audience when it comes to the intersection of public-private partnerships and community engagement and involvement? Jason.
One piece of advice: we can't do it alone. So when you think about public-private partnerships, they're there to advance, whether it's advancing a city, whether it's advancing a community. But if we don't lean into it, we'll stick in our silos and we won't be able to show progression.
Stay out your silos. Love it. Leah.
Yeah, and I forgot to mention the role of community-based organizations in my last question, so I'll stick with that part. Use community-based organizations in your strategies as well, because you want to make sure you have trusted messengers to also do outreach to the residents and keep them involved. And if you're going to work with your community-based organizations, make sure you compensate them for their time. Nothing is free. So community-based organizations is a great part of the recipe for community collaboration and those public-private partnerships with the vendor community in the programs I mentioned before.
Use all people. Love it. George.
Everyone on the panel shared the main things that I would bring up, but in terms of, you know, Jason, you can't do things alone, and Leah, lean in on the grassroots organization. So basically, tap into the people that are already doing the work so that you guys don't necessarily duplicate efforts, and then figure out where the need is so that you can add value to continuously scale that ecosystem or that collaborative effort in the community.
Love that. Everybody wants to walk away with value. And value is reciprocity. It's reciprocal. The community-based organization can't be the only one getting $1,000 and walking away happy. What does that public-private partner get from the investment of participation? And I think when we get to resolution where everybody walks away with a win, then people desire to be a part of that intersection of public-private partnerships. We're going to now open this up to questions, and I'm going to come down. If you have a burning questions for these great panelists who are here today, we want you to ask those questions. Anyone? Yes.
Hey, good morning. My question is actually for you, Mr. Nuñez. I respect a lot of what you said about needing to basically chase down what you were looking for. And I find that in my communication with a lot of people, as well as with a few things of my own, it's kind of difficult to kind of get the ball rolling. So it's like a lot of great ideas in the technology space, but not having the resource of getting it started or speaking to a person who you think can help you get it started, only to be sideswiped and see your idea somewhere else, but you never get the credit. You just kind of vanish because it was a great idea, but somebody else took it. And some people just don't know how to, safeguard their idea until it can get traction where they can get compensated for it. So I was wondering if you could speak to that, because I see that a lot in our communities.
I see that a lot in our communities. Who would like to answer that?
Yeah, that's a great question. Your name again? Tracy. That is a phenomenal question. I appreciate that. And that's something that I was uncomfortable about, and something that I always worried about. But here's the thing that you should also consider, and other people in the room that are thinking the same way. What is meant for you cannot be replicated. So if God had gave you that vision, there's no way someone could replicate your vision. And the other thing for me was I realized that I put myself around people who actually cared for me, or people that wanted to see me win and put me in the best position forward to bring up this Bronx Tech Hub vision, right? Like people like Phil Strawbridge. I have 3 board members, Cheyenne, Stacy Ann, and Emmanuel. So these people were always giving me the jewels and the gems, like, hey, make sure that you file your 501c3. Well, first off, figure out the difference between the LLC and the 501c3 and figure out what is the best need for Bronx Tech Hub to move forward. Hey, make sure you patent or trademark some of your things. Like you can speak to lawyers that do pro bono work. Yeah, it might take some time because they're working on other things, or they might be in their law school taking courses, but they'll work with you and eventually get those patents filed. So being able to leverage all of the free resources and the early adopters to your advantage.
Okay. I'm sorry, can I say something? Get you an NDA too. Have people sign off. Thank you.
Yes, the agreements, MOUs, NDAs, absolutely.
Doug Dolan, my question is for Jason, but I'm also interested in the feedback from the other panelists. It's about unintended consequences. So you mentioned your Beltline project, how you focused on the underserved areas of the city. Very often what happens is after you do something like that, there's gentrification. And the very people that you wanted to benefit end up getting pushed out. So what kinds of safeguards can you put in place when you're doing your collaboration to make sure that you get the intended consequences?
That's a great question. And I'm going to go back to one of the pillars of Mayor Andre Dickens, a city of opportunity for all. So one of his goals during his tenure as mayor is to make sure that 20,000 new affordable housing units are available within the city of Atlanta. 20,000. And we're already 28% there. So making sure that we don't have that happen is one of his goals, because when you think about Metro Atlanta, it is probably about 3.2 million in Metro. In the city of Atlanta, it's under 600,000. People don't know that. They think that, oh, Atlanta, there's millions of people. No, the city of Atlanta is under 600,000 residents. And the mayor's goal is to keep Atlantas in Atlanta and not push them out. But that's a great question.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I would just add,
Yeah, go ahead.
Equity, that topic is very important to our city as well. And in our city, one of the striking statistics is that there's a 17-year age gap between the average life expectancy in one part of our city versus another part of our city. And so it's totally unacceptable. And so the answer isn't not to invest. So we want to invest in parks and healthy food options and other things like that. And then our strategy also is to do the inclusionary housing. And then make sure not that the inclusionary and the affordable housing isn't just concentrated in those areas, but also in other parts of the city. And so we're really proud of building affordable housing throughout the city, including those areas with a higher life expectancy right now.
All right, what's up? I'm a hip hop gamer, Hot 97. That was my sister, by the way, yo. You know what I'm saying? She had that dope question. So my question is, one of the biggest video games in the world is Sims. And if you look at how Electronic Arts simulates Sims for smart cities through video games, what I wanted to ask, anyone can take this question, but what I wanted to ask is, how can we take a lot of the rewards that gaming has? So for example, if you're playing Fortnite, you get different XP, and that could lead to you getting V-Bucks. There's a bonus for that because of activity, you know what I'm saying, engagement. If you look at a new company called Clean Play, we just partnered with 2K. So the more you play, the more clean your energy becomes for the whole city. You see what I'm saying? So we see what we shouldn't do in terms of a city that can be detrimental to it, and we get penalized. But we don't see any type of proper rewards in our day-to-day lives in the city. So my question to you is, how can we implement a program that benefits everybody simply for doing the right things we should do for everybody to benefit in the city that we're in? That's what I was saying. I can help with that. Like, I got the situation. But I'm just wanted to ask what y'all thought, you know what I'm saying, because that's one of the reasons why I'm here, yo. Let's get it.
Gamification.
I would love for you to submit to Pitch Long Beach.
Wow.
Yeah, I would
Wow.
I would love that. I love what you just said. I think gamifying is a great idea, and yeah, so submit to Pitch Long Beach.
Yeah, I would definitely love to follow up with you as well and see how we could collaborate and work. But off the top of my head, I would definitely say turning into a college course or even an educational course where people could benefit, and they could either. You want to follow up? Yeah.
My voice is out there. How y'all doing? I recently partnered with Denzel Washington, right? So I actually have my gaming.
Congratulations.
School where I got kids getting paid to go to school. They get paid $100 an hour to play games, do reports on the games, all these things, and it changed the landscape of how they see school. And it's all based around a quote I created and own their trademark. It's called "Character is your currency." So the value is always in who you are, but that's not what it's like in a day-to-day basis of society. So I have the program and the situation to do it. It's just what y'all said, finding the right partners that's already got one thing done, this thing done, this thing done. We put it all together, we get everything completed. That's why I want, you know what I'm saying?
That's great. Yeah, so you are already doing the work, and you're also making headway with schools. So that's a good note there. But the other thing I would say is, you know, as the deputy borough president is here, politicians, like being able to connect with the local politicians in the community, right? Yeah. So listen, you already doing the work, brother. Yeah, like that, like being able to tap into schools and policies and politics who help influence or change the local communities and what's going on. I think those are the people that you really need to lean on. But yeah, happy to speak more about that with you offline for sure.
One more question here. Thank you.
Good afternoon, guys, or good afternoon, panel. Ryan Young. I have a question, I guess it's for Jason, Leah, also Ebony. Well, for anyone. So the question is, you know, all of these innovative technologies that benefit the community, and they may roll out as a test. How do you get the community involved in realizing, first, educating the community and realizing that maybe this test worked? How did they benefit from this specific project? And then how do they advocate after they figure out that it's a benefit? How do they advocate for their community for that test to stay? And how can it become sustainable and scalable? So yeah, that's my question.
Great. Go ahead, Jason.
So I actually like Leah's thought process around the stipends and bringing the community in, incentivizing. One of the struggles that we have is participation. And when I mentioned the Mobile Innovation Lab, we were so excited. We went out literally into the community with a truck. We partnered with Comcast and brought Wi-Fi to the community. And the first time we were there, we advertised it, social media. We were all excited. 3 people showed up. And we said, Okay. What did we do wrong? And so we took it back. We had further discussions, and then we started saying, okay, we're going to go to the MPU meetings because people are coming to those meetings, and we partnered with the MPUs and got people to stay afterward. We brought food to incentivize in that regards. But then we thought, hey, when we come back, we'll get the same people out. We didn't get the same people out. So I'm going to actually speak to Leah after this because I like some of the ideas that they brought forth, and I think they can be successful, but great question.
And we're going to end it right here. Really quickly, I do believe that if you want anything to be sustainable, that people need to feel a sense of ownership. And ownership means that we built their competence. Part of building competence for people means that they understand how their skills deliver in those areas. We partnered with SkyHive, which is an artificial intelligence data platform that looked at skills building in a different way. They threw their skills in. It basically gave them a report in the next 5 years. If you continue on this track with these partners, move with these people, this is where you could be. Then we massaged that skill capacity through connecting them with information, activating that with workforce development partners and skills builders, and then looking at people even outside of the United States, in Africa, in Mexico City, to partner with so that those people could see people that look like them at unicorn level status at mass scale. Where do we go? Lagos, Nigeria. Mexico City, so our Black and Latinx folks could see people that look like them. Now I feel a sense of ownership. There's something that I can connect to. I do believe that if you want to sustain any system, a person has to feel a sense of ownership, and that's building competencies, being competent, then turns into confidence, right? And when people have confidence, they move differently. Thank you all for coming and joining us today.